Hey brother! Ben, I am so excited right now. Stranger Things Season 2 comes out this week on Netflix. It is easily my favorite Netflix show, and I've been saving this video for a while. Because today we are going to discuss how 11 from Stranger Things is basically Jean Grey from the X-Men. X-Men, you might be saying. What do they have to do with Stranger Things other than being one of like the zillion things from the 80s that the show references? Well, surprisingly a lot, especially when it comes to 11. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say, I'm not saying that 11 is Jean Grey. I'm not saying this is a show about mutants. What I'm suggesting is that I think she's so heavily inspired by this character that we can start to make some predictions about the show if that's true. In case you are less familiar with Jean Grey, I'll give you a refresher. She is one of the original X-Men, dating all the way back to Uncanny X-Men issue number 1, where she is also known as Marvel Girl. Personally, I can see why they dropped that. She has two main powers. One is that she can read minds, but two, and more importantly for this video, is that she can move things with her mind, which, if you'll recall, is 11's also awesome power. But what Jean is possibly most well known for is her alter ego, the Dark Phoenix, also sometimes known as the Phoenix Force. This has manifested itself many ways over the years. Sometimes it's an alien symbiote who's sharing a body with Jean. Sometimes it's like a subconscious personality just waiting to take control. But the end result is pretty much always the same. Evil Jean with powers turned up to like ultra max, like way more powerful than regular Jean. The Dark Phoenix is one of X-Men's most popular and famous story arcs, so much so that they're about to make their second movie about it coming out next year. But what I'm more interested in today is its first appearance in Uncanny X-Men number 134. Ah, 134, why does that sound familiar?
I'll take your X-Men 134!
Ah, yes, it just so happens that the comic Dustin and Will are betting on happens to be the start of the Dark Phoenix saga. And I have to say, I don't think that's any coincidence. By the way, can I just say that is a nice looking cover they've got there. In that issue, the villain Mastermind is experimenting on Jean's brain, trying to unlock her true potential. And he's making some progress until he loses a battle with Cyclops, which releases Jean from his hold, but also releases the Phoenix. Which sounds an awful lot like 11 and Dr. Brenner, who, in the middle of an experiment, loses control and opens a tear into the Upside Down, releasing the monster. And speaking of the monster, the boys in the show assign it its own name, the Demigorgon, based on a game of D&D they're playing in the first episode. And even though the monster itself only has one head, the statue they choose to represent it with has two. Two heads as in two personalities, as in Jean and the Dark Phoenix, as in 11 and the monster. And this sort of dual personality thing is like everywhere around 11. Like everything about her is influenced by this idea of the upside down or parallel version of herself. Like first, let's look at her name. Well, all of her names, all the names. The number 11, I'm sure you don't need me to explain to you, is two ones next to each other, which when drawn looks really similar to the symbol for parallel in math. But the boys don't call her 11, they call her L, which, much like the number it's short for, is a palindrome, meaning it's the same forward and back. It's literally a mirror of itself. And right there in the middle of it, you have the two L's again, which again make the symbol for parallel. And then there's her actual name, which her actress, Millie Bobby Brown, confirmed to be Jane, which I can't help but notice sounds incredibly similar to Jean, as in Jean Grey, who also has an evil alter ego. Or should I say evil alter ego? Chills, guys, chills. But you don't have to analyze the show like that. I mean, there's plenty of hints in the show itself that are often, I think, presented as misdirection. Like, for one, when 11 finally reveals that she's the one who opened the gate, she actually says she's the monster. Like, she actually says it.
I'm the monster.
So there's that. But here's the genius of the show. They're telling you the answer right here, but of course, in that moment, they don't want you to believe her. They want to use that moment to make you believe in her. Like, no, "Oh, you're just a scared little girl. You're not a monster. You're not the monster." But she does say it. And then there's Lucas, who just outright accuses her of being the monster. But once again, the show cleverly manages to discredit the idea, even though they're telling you the answer.
But did you ever stop to think that maybe she's the monster?
It's discrediting because at this point in the show, you just want Eleven to feel like a normal little girl and for her and Mike to hold hands and be happy and for the boys to like her. But Lucas is being a jerk, and he's been being a jerk for a couple episodes now.
I told you she didn't know what the hell she was talking about.
So when he says this, you really don't want to believe him or be on his side at all. But he does say it. And then there's the location of her appearance. Will gets abducted in the woods, and then the boys find Eleven in the same woods just a few hours later. Now, I'm not saying that wherever Eleven is in the real world, the monster is in the parallel world. Once they enter, they appear to be able to move freely. But they do appear to enter at the same spot, and they also vanish at the same spot. And when I say vanish, I mean Eleven outright destroys the monster. But when she destroys it, she vanishes too. Which is important because if we go back to that Uncanny X-Men Dark Phoenix saga, that's kind of how it ends as well. The X-Men are able to coax Jean into a moment of lucidity, and she takes that one free moment to turn some MacGuffin weapon on herself and basically destroy herself. And the arc ends with Uatu, the Watcher, saying, "Jean Grey could have lived to become a god, but it was more important to her that she died as a human." That sentiment matches up extremely nicely with Eleven, who, yes, is an extremely powerful character, but she's constantly seen just wanting to be a normal little girl, like when she sees the picture of Mike's sister Nance.
Pretty, I guess.
By the way, Nance, I am totally on Team Jonathan, mostly because his name is Jonathan, but also because Steve is a tool and Jonathan is a great big brother to his little brother and a great son to his mom, and he really likes you. And yeah, I know there was that weird creepy photo thing, but it did give you a lead on Barb, didn't it? Also, did I mention his name is Jonathan? That's my name. But going back to Eleven, you might be wondering, why does it matter? We know she destroyed the monster and we know she's gonna be in season 2, so doesn't that kind of disprove this? I mean, what's the point? Couple things. Killing the monster seems to have also killed Eleven, and yet we know she's back in season 2, which in my mind means the monster is also back. And isn't it just like a phoenix to be reborn again? And I couldn't help but notice that the entire time we spend in the Upside Down, there's just the one monster, and yet we know in season 2 there's gonna be big giant monster. So maybe it's not a new monster, it's just the old monster reborn with bigger powers, which could also mean that then Eleven also has new powers, and God, I hope so, because I love 11. But maybe the biggest reason is because it just makes the show make more sense. I mean, sure, having a dark parallel reality where monsters can enter poses a threat to the town, but if it's not tied to any other character, if the monster is just a monster, then it's just a threat for the sake of being a threat. But if it's specifically tied to 11, then we're presented with a consistent and real problem. Is there any way for her to exist without the monster also existing? Is her happiness worth the safety of those around her? And is it fair to put that kind of responsibility on a little girl who was raised by a complete stranger? Dr. Brenner, the gray-haired lab coat wearing antagonist of the series. He is totally a stranger to her and kind of responsible for everything happening in town. You know what another good title would be, since he's a stranger and responsible for all the things, is Stranger Thing. Oh, wait. Sorry, I know that might seem like kind of a reach, but guess who the villain of Uncanny X-Men number 11 is? None other than the gray-haired, lab coat wearing stranger. So Ben, my question for you and everyone else, do you agree? Is 11 based on Jean, and what does that mean for season 2? Are you excited? Who's your favorite character? What are you gonna be for Halloween? So many fun things happening this week. Let me know in the towel section down below. These socks are amazing! Guys, thanks for watching. As always, please remember to leave a like on this video if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Stranger Things / Marvel action from us. If you wanna see how Stan Lee could be the Watcher, you can check out this video right here, or if you want to figure out the deal with American flags in Spider-Man, you can check out this video right here. But Ben, that's all I've got for you today, man. I will see you in another life, brother.